You know, sometimes we don't like to come in front. Sometimes we don't like to come in front of the Springfield Press Corps because you guys know a lot and you give us a lot of hard questions. But actually, what we're going to talk about today, we're hoping you question really hard, and we're hoping that when you leave here, you go out and challenge other people with the information that you're going to hear today. What we're going to present today took a lot of work on the part of our caucus. You can see we have a lot of support here. You're going to hear from myself, from Senator Murphy and Althoff, for our budget people. But I also have to recognize a few other people who were particularly adamant in pushing in this direction, and that is Kyle McCarter, Dan Duffy, Chris Lawson, who are all very adamant that we really need to start getting a little more specific on what our thoughts and plans are for the budget. So we want to focus today on what the problem is that we are facing. It's no secret to anyone that Illinois is in a financial crisis. But we really need to focus on what happens going forward if we follow the path that the governor has set out. As you know, despite a 67% income tax increase that is supposed to yield $7 billion a year, that increase, you recall, was pushed through during the 11th hour of a lame duck session. Illinois is still on the verge of facing a multi-billion-dollar deficit within 5 years. Now, and the reason for that is because we still have not had any true reform on the spending side of state government. And despite the taxes, unless we reform spending, we're not going to get out of this. If the state continues on the path that has been set out, and we're going to walk through some numbers to demonstrate this, Illinois will be in worse financial shape than ever before, even with the tax increase. It's a race towards a budget cliff that will leave the state with an annual deficit, or an annual deficit of $8 billion and a cumulative budget deficit of more than $22 billion in 5 years. What happens then? Clearly, the promise or the hope that the income tax increase would be temporary will not happen. It will have to be permanent. And with $22 billion, there is going to have to be another tax increase unless we address the spending side of things. So we believe the absolute only alternative is to really address the spending side. We have to bring spending in line with state revenues. It's not enough to talk about borrowing. Interestingly, the governor has invited us to participate in a work group on borrowing. We're not going to do that because that is not going to solve the solution. We would love to participate in a work group on the budget as a whole, and one that includes a discussion about getting spending under control. Now, what we've done is we have determined after careful review that in order to reverse the course, we're going to have to make additional cuts of between $4 and $6 billion to what the governor has proposed. Now, you're going to ask, what are those cuts? And we're going to give those to you, but we're not going to give them to you today. We're going to talk about those next week because we think it's so critical that people understand the importance of changing the direction of the discussion. It's a little bit like a reverse investment. You know, if you put a little bit of money in, it grows. We're in a situation where if you put in some cuts, we'll reap the benefits multifold in a few years. So we will be talking about those cuts, and we've done that very carefully and systematically as well. In fact, when we propose cuts, we're willing to step up to the plate and put votes. My goal is to put at least 15 votes on any proposed cuts. That's more than half, even though we're less than half because we are in the minority. As a minority party, clearly we have not created this situation over the last 8 years. In fact, we have consistently warned that we would be getting to this point if we didn't take some corrective action, and here we are. Still, we are willing and we look forward to partnering with the Democrats and changing the financial plan going forward to include and, in fact, focus on spending cuts first and foremost, which, if we act promptly, will be able to make the tax increase go away and, in fact, allow us to pay our bills without borrowing. So those are some laudable goals. We look forward to working with the Democrats on that.